I'm in Berwick in the home of Sylvia Henshaw. Thank you so much for having us in. Your husband Doug was one of the first Nova Scotians to receive medically assisted dying. Tell me a bit about the situation that got him to that point.
He had been ill about 10 years, beginning with quadruple bypass surgery, then a year later a stroke, and a couple of years after that a diagnosis of Parkinson's disease. And nothing ever gets better. It just got worse and worse. And I think I always knew long before he became ill that he did not want to tolerate a chronic disease.
He was a doctor, right?
He was a doctor. He used to say things like, I will have a means at hand, or I will just jump off the boat and have a drink and wait 30 minutes before you call for help, or if you find me on the floor, go for a long walk and come back, because if I have a stroke, I don't want to survive. But as the Parkinson's symptoms got worse, we heard a radio program from Dying with Dignity, and he immediately got on the computer and researched it and sent off a check and got their information from then on, and was very interested in ending his own life when he felt that he could no longer tolerate the symptoms.
And this was quite a bit before the legislation came into place, correct?
It was about 4 years maybe before the legislation.
What was that wait like?
The first couple of years it was almost reassuring that he could do it if he wanted to, but he wasn't ready at that point. And by the time I think he was ready, he could no longer physically carry it out himself. His swallowing wasn't good, his hands were hopeless. So it was a very dark place for a while.
Once the legislation passed, I understand that Labor Day was, or the day after Labor Day was when your husband was assisted.
Yes, the day following Labor Day, Tuesday the 6th.
And he was the one who said, this is what I want. Correct?
Absolutely, he had to. It had to be him.
Why are you speaking out? What do you want people to know?
I think the negative publicity that I've heard is that we're going to be preying on the weak and the vulnerable. And I would just like to put a human face to this story, that people do choose this route themselves because their suffering is unbearable. I acknowledge it's not for everyone. I certainly wouldn't encourage anyone to take it, but if they're interested, I think the information should be available. And I know what a difficult position it is to look after someone who's basically dying a very slow, prolonged death, and to be totally incapable of alleviating any pain. And it doesn't matter how much you do, you're not really helping their suffering. And this legislation gives so much hope for those who are looking to escape an unbearable life.
Sylvia, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.